Let me tell you something that happened inside a language classroom in Shanghai, something that left the teacher completely speechless. There was a student. His name was Wei. He wasn't the smartest kid in the room. He didn't come from a rich family. He didn't have fancy apps or expensive tutors. But when the teacher asked the class to recall a 400-word passage they had studied 3 weeks ago, every single student panicked. They flipped through their notes. They whispered to each other. Some of them just gave up. But not Wei. Wei put down his pen, closed his eyes for exactly 5 seconds, and then, slowly, calmly, he recited that passage word for word. The entire class went silent. The teacher asked, Wei, how did you do that? Wei smiled and said just 4 words. I remembered how it felt. Now, what did he mean by that? What is the secret system behind a memory like Wei's? And most importantly, can you do the same thing? Yes, you absolutely can. And in the next 15 minutes, I am going to give you the golden rules of memory, the ones that schools never teach, scientists have proven, and memory champions quietly use every single day. Welcome back to Fluent English with Tara. I'm Tara, and today we are not just learning English, we are rewiring the way your brain stores information. So stay with me because the secret way used, it's simpler than you think and more powerful than you can imagine. The science of forgetting. Before I give you the golden rules, I need to ask you something honest. Have you ever read a full chapter, closed the book, and thought, wait, what did I just read? Has that ever happened to you? Of course it has. It happens to everyone. And here's why. In 1885, a German psychologist named Hermann Ebbinghaus did something remarkable. He sat alone in his lab and memorized hundreds of meaningless syllables, and then tracked how fast he forgot them. What he discovered became one of the most important graphs in the history of psychology. He called it the forgetting curve. Here's what it shows. Within just 20 minutes of learning something new, your brain has already forgotten 40% of it. Within 1 hour, 50% is gone. By the end of the day, 70% has disappeared. And by the end of the week, almost 90% has vanished, like it was never there. 90%. Think about that. Think about every English class, every vocabulary list, every grammar rule you ever studied. Where did all of it go? Now here's the terrifying part. This is not a personal problem. This is biology. Your brain is designed to forget. It's actually doing its job because your brain says, if you don't use it, it must not be important. So, delete. But what if you could stop the delete command? What if you could tell your brain, no, 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 this one is important. Keep it. Lock it in. That is exactly what Wei knew how to do. That is exactly what memory champions do. And that is exactly what you are about to learn. Let's go through the golden rules one by one. Okay. Golden rule number 1. And this is the most important one, so I need you to really listen. Write this down if you have a pen. You remember what you feel, not what you read. This is the secret behind Wei's answer. I remembered how it felt. He didn't just read the passage, he connected it to an emotion. Let me prove this to you right now. Tell me, what did you eat for lunch exactly 9 days ago? You probably have no idea, right? Now tell me, what were you doing on the day you got your first job, or the day you fell in love, or the day something truly embarrassing happened to you at school? I bet you remember every detail. the clothes you were wearing, the smell of the room, the exact words someone said. Why? Because those moments had emotion attached to them. Your brain has a little structure called the amygdala. It's the brain's emotion center. In neuroscience has proven that when the amygdala is activated during learning, it acts like a giant highlighter. It signals the memory sensor to say, "This one is important. Store it permanently." So here is Golden Rule 1 in practice. Every time you learn a new English word, phrase, or sentence, don't just repeat it. Connect it to a feeling. Connect it to a story. Connect it to something real in your life. For example, the word overwhelmed. Don't just memorize the dictionary definition. Remember the last time you felt overwhelmed. Maybe it was during exams. Maybe it was your first day in a new city. Feel that feeling and attach the word to it. Overwhelmed. Now you'll never forget it. Golden rule number 2. Give every memory a home. This technique is over 2,500 years old. It was used by ancient Greek and Roman orators, people who had to give hour-long speeches completely from memory, without a single note. It's called the method of loci, or more famously, the memory palace. Here is how it works, and I want you to really visualize this as I explain it. Close your eyes for a moment. Think of your home, your front door. You walk in. What do you see first? Maybe your hallway, then the living room, the kitchen, your bedroom, your bathroom. You know every corner of that space perfectly. You could walk through it with your eyes closed. Now, what if you could use that mental map to store information? Here's the technique. You take whatever you want to remember, let's say 5 new English phrases, and you mentally place each one at a specific location inside your home. Phrase 1. I'm running a bit late. You picture it stuck on your front door. Maybe you literally see the words painted in big red letters on your door. Phrase 2. Could you say that again? You picture a giant parrot sitting on your sofa, screaming those words over and over. Phrase 3. I completely understand. You see a bright light bulb glowing on your kitchen table. And so on. Each phrase gets a wild, vivid, almost ridiculous image at a specific location. Now, when you need to remember those phrases, you simply take a mental walk through your house. You walk to the door, you see the red words. You enter the living room, you hear the parrot. You reach the kitchen, you see the light bulb. This works because your brain is incredibly good at remembering spaces and images, much better than it is at remembering abstract words on a page. Memory champions who memorize entire decks of cards in under 2 minutes, they all use this exact technique. This is not magic, this is architecture of the mind. And the more houses you build in your imagination, the more you can remember. Unlimited storage forever. Golden rule number 3, and this one defeats the forgetting curve directly. It's called spaced repetition, and it is probably the most underused study tool in the world. Here's the idea. Instead of studying something once for a long time, you study it multiple times over increasing intervals. Think of it like watering a plant. If you pour all the water at once, the plant drowns and dies. But if you water it a little bit every few days, it grows strong. Your memory works the same way. The science says this: review something after 1 day, then after 3 days, then after a week, then after 2 weeks, then after a month. Each time you review it just before you're about to forget it, your brain says, oh, this keeps coming back. It must be very important, and it strengthens that memory pathway, like pressing a path deeper and deeper into grass. You can use apps like Anki or Quizlet, which are built entirely on spaced repetition, or you can do it manually with index cards, but the principle is the same. One new English word, reviewed at the right intervals, will stay with you for life. No effort, no cramming, no panic before exams. Wei used this. He had a small notebook, divided by days. every new word he learned went into a specific day's column, and each day he only reviewed what was due. 15 minutes a day. That was all. And his vocabulary grew to over 8,000 English words in 2 years. 15 minutes a day. Can you give your brain 15 minutes? Golden rule number 4. And this one is going to feel uncomfortable, but that discomfort, that is the learning. It's called active recall, and it means don't just read, don't just highlight, don't just rewatch the video. Instead, close the book, put down the pen, and try to remember what you just learned. Let me give you a simple example. After watching this section, pause the video, take out a piece of paper, and try to write down everything you remember about the memory palace technique. Don't look at your notes, just try. You will probably struggle, you will probably miss things, and that struggling, that effort of trying to pull the information out of your brain, that is called retrieval practice, and it is scientifically proven to be 3 times more effective than simply rereading. Because here's the truth. Reading feels productive, it feels comfortable, it feels like learning, but it's actually passive. Your brain is just receiving, not processing. When you try to recall, your brain has to search, connect, and reconstruct, and every time it does that, it builds a stronger pathway. This is exactly why teachers say, close your books and tell me what you remember. That wasn't punishment. That was the most powerful learning tool in the room. So after every English lesson, test yourself every single time. Ask yourself, what did I learn? What was the example? What was the word? What was the rule? Struggle is not failure. Struggle is memory being built. Golden rule number 5, and this one where actual advanced memory begins. This is what separates people like Wei from ordinary students. I call it advanced mental framing, but you might also know it as turning information into a story. Your brain was not designed to memorize facts. It was designed to follow narratives. Think about it. You can watch a movie once and remember the entire plot 2 years later, but you can read the same paragraph 5 times and forget it in 5 minutes. Why? Because the movie was a story. It had characters, conflict, emotion, and resolution. Your brain was completely engaged. So here's the advanced technique. Whatever you need to remember, turn it into a story. Let me give you a real example right now. Let's say you're learning 3 new English phrases. 1. Bear in mind, meaning to remember to consider something. 2. Get the ball rolling, meaning to start something. And 3. On the same page, meaning everyone understands and agrees. Now, instead of repeating those 3 phrases like a robot, watch what happens when we build a story. Before starting the project, the manager said, let's get the ball rolling, but bear in mind that everyone needs to be on the same page before we begin. 1 sentence, 3 phrases, embedded in a real-life situation. Now you understand them, you can use them, and you'll remember them because they lived inside a story for a moment. This is exactly how Wei memorized entire English passages. He didn't read them as text. He experienced them as mini-movies playing inside his mind. Every sentence was a scene. Every word was a character. When you read, see pictures. When you study, build stories. Your brain will never let them go. Golden rule number 6. And this one honestly is my favorite because it requires you to do absolutely nothing. Are you ready? Sleep. Yes, go to sleep. Seriously. Now I know what you're thinking. Tara, I came here for tips, not a nap, but listen to me very carefully. While you sleep, and specifically during a stage called deep sleep, your brain does something extraordinary. It replays everything you learned during the day, like a filing system. It takes all the new information, all those words, phrases, images, stories, and it moves them from short-term memory to long-term memory. Scientists call this process memory consolidation. Studies from Harvard University have shown that students who slept after studying remembered 44% more the next day than students who stayed up revising all night. Wei's teacher noticed something. Wei always went to sleep early. His classmates stayed up cramming. Wei slept 8 hours, and every morning while his classmates were desperately trying to remember what Wei slept 8 hours, and every morning while his classmates were desperately trying to remember what they studied at 2 a.m., Wei walked in fully refreshed and perfectly sharp. He wasn't lazy, he was strategic. So here is your rule. Study in the evening, review your notes, engage with the material, then sleep, and trust your brain to do its most powerful work while you rest. The best thing you can do after learning something is go to sleep. That's not a metaphor, that's neuroscience. Golden rule number 7, the final golden rule. And this one will feel surprising, but once you hear it, you will never forget it. If you want to remember something, teach it. There's a concept called the protege effect. Research shows that when people know they are going to teach information to someone else, they learn it more deeply, more carefully, and remember it far longer than people who study just for themselves. And here's the beautiful part. You don't even need a real student. You can teach your mirror. You can explain a concept to your younger sibling or friend. You can make a voice note as if you're recording a lesson. You can write a simple explanation in your own words. The act of putting knowledge into words from your brain forces your mind to organize, simplify, and truly understand the material. And understanding is the deepest form of memory. Wei had a habit. Every night, he would pick one thing he learned that day, one English phrase, one grammar rule, one vocabulary word, and he would explain it out loud to himself, as if he was teaching a class. He would give examples. He would use it in a sentence. He would explain why it mattered. His classmates thought he was strange. His teacher thought he was brilliant. By the time exam day came, Wei didn't need to revise. He already understood everything so deeply that forgetting became almost impossible. This is known as the Feynman technique, named after Nobel Prize-winning physicist Richard Feynman, who said, "If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough." So here is your challenge today. After this video ends, explain one thing you learned to someone, anyone. It doesn't matter who, just open your mouth and teach, because the moment you teach it, you own it forever. Now, let me take you back to Wei, standing in that classroom in Shanghai, calmly reciting a passage that his classmates had already forgotten. He wasn't born with a special brain. He didn't have a gift. What he had were habits, tiny daily habits built on a deep understanding of how memory actually works. Habits that anyone, including you, can start today. So let me leave you with all 7 golden rules one final time. Rule 1. Attach emotion to everything you learn. Feel it, don't just read it. Rule 2. Build a memory palace. Give every memory a physical home inside your imagination. Rule 3. Use spaced repetition. Review information at the right intervals to defeat forgetting. Rule 4. Practice active recall. Close the book and test yourself every single time. Rule 5. Use mental framing. Turn information into a story and your brain will hold it forever. Rule 6. Sleep deeply and consistently. Let your brain consolidate everything you've worked hard to learn. Rule 7. Teach what you know. Explaining something is the deepest form of remembering it. These are not just study tips. These are the rules of how your brain works. And now you know them. So the next time you are sitting in an English lesson or reading a book or watching a video like this, remember Wei. Remember that forgetting is not your destiny. Remember that your brain is not broken. It just hasn't been given the right instructions. Until today. I'm Tara, and this is Fluent English. If this video helped you even a little bit, please give it a like. It genuinely means the world to this channel. Subscribe if you haven't already, and share this with one friend who needs to hear this today. Because the best gift you can give someone is a better memory. I'll see you in the next lesson. Keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly, keep remembering.